fact is, the US is very far behind. Several countries in particular, I would say India, obviously, and India and Uzbekistan, very specifically. They have some very, very strong talents. You look at countries like Iran or Turkey, where you also have a couple of kids who are really, really strong and are frankly like very annoying for me to play against.
And if you take the knight, it is kind of showcasing to the opponent that you're lacking some confidence.
Well,
Forcing a draw with white after only 10 moves is...
I think we're about to get the answers to all our questions. It's a black screen for now. What will come first, Queen C6 or Hikaru on the call?
Well,
How you
now
guys
I know
doing?
the answer. Hey,
There you guys go.
Hikaru.
How you guys doing?
Right
Who
on
takes the
cue,
knight?
as you appear, Queen
Hmm.
C6 appears on the camera and on the board.
Yeah. How you guys doing?
We are doing good. How are you?
I'm okay. I mean, obviously, since it's a 30-minute delay, I've had a bit of time to look at what happened, of course, and go through it. Definitely not happy with how short the game was. I would have liked for it to have gone longer. That being said, Fabiano came up with this A6 idea, which I had not seen. And frankly, during the game, I wasn't sure if I was confused or whether I'd forgotten move order or what had happened. But then I spent more and more time, and I mean, I didn't really think that anything could come from it if I played on. Like, if I played Queen D3 in like 5 minutes, maybe it's reasonable. But once I go into the deep think in a situation where there's no, sorry, not no increment, where there's no added time at move 40, it didn't seem practical to be down half an hour on the clock against someone who's not a human. Because obviously at this point Fabiano is still stockfish. He's playing all the moves from his prepared file before the game. So from a risk reward standpoint, it just made no sense to me to play on once I had started spending my time.
Once you started spending your time, was the game against Fabi from the Champions Showdown also a little bit at the back of your mind, or?
No, I mean that had actually that had nothing to do with it. I mean, it was more the fact that I was trying to figure out, did I forget a move order? Did he come up with something new? What was going on? And I wasn't really sure what the answer was. And obviously, I'm not going to reveal that right now because if tomorrow's game is, say, a draw, there will be tiebreakers, and who knows what I will or won't play. So I'm not going to reveal that right now, what the actual answer to that question is. But it just, yeah, it wasn't on my mind. It was more the fact that it's just I mean, people might be surprised to realize this, but during games there are a lot of situations where it's more about thinking about it from like the risk reward. I've said this before, apparently someone pointed out to me that there's this silly online forum, and there was some thread about people getting angry about me saying something that was very truthful about the candidates tournament yesterday. But then furthermore, to give another hot take, the way that I look at top level chess is you prepare very hard, you try to get your opening preparation on the board, but then when you're in the game, a lot of what happens in terms of decision making is not pure calculations. It's actually about it actually ends up becoming about risk reward. And I've said before that I think chess players, top ones, are basically glorified risk managers and nothing else. So it's like I started thinking about the situation. It's like from the risk reward standpoint, if I'm down 30 minutes on the clock, Fabiano is super prepared. He's obviously stockfish. He's not Fabiano at this point in the game, so he's going to be blitzing out another couple of moves. I haven't been good when I get low on time lately. And also when I did my calculations, I didn't think I was better even if I played on with Queen D3. So what good can come from that? It basically becomes a situation where I look at it as best case, it's a draw, and if I do something wrong, I'm probably going to lose the game. And that's not the risk reward ratio that you ever want, whether you're playing chess, markets, poker, whatever it might be. That's not what you want. So that was basically the rationale for why I chose to make the draw. Ultimately, if I play Queen D3 in 5 minutes, it's different, but that's how it goes.
So Hikaru, you're talking a lot about thoughts you put into this before making the decision to force the draw. I want to ask, did you consider your probability of winning should this go into a blitz playoff?
No, I mean, I think it's been very clear both from my play, but everybody's play that Blitz is just like, I mean, it's gonna be a show. So, I mean, both players are probably gonna blunder. It doesn't matter whether it's me and Fabiano playing or others. I mean, we've seen a lot of horrible blunders already, and I think there are gonna be more blunders if we play tiebreaker. So no, it's not a situation where I'm thinking about it as like I'm a favorite in the Blitz. It's more just what are the chances of me like. And to use like yesterday's game as an example, there was this moment when Dominguez played Bishop G5, and I could have made the repetition, and I didn't. I didn't make the repetition there because I thought that it was a two-result game where either it's a draw if Dominguez plays very well, or I win the game if he gets sloppy and makes a mistake, or if I outplay him. So in that case, it's the risk-reward ratio that you want, but here it wasn't. So it had nothing to do with like thinking about my chances in Blitz or anything else. It was just simply a situation where I thought that it made sense to be just to be kind of like be practical.
This is your third white game, and in all the white games, you've played the Catalan opening. What are your feelings on the success of that, and is it something you're gonna keep doing this tournament?
Well, I mean, I should have beat Mishra. If I beat Mishra with that Catalan, all's well that ends well. Yeah, I mean, it's a very solid opening, but frankly, what I would say is that there's no magic bullet in chess anymore. Chess is a very equal game. You're just looking for little ideas here or there. It doesn't matter whether you play the Spanish, you play the Italian, or whether you play the English, or a Catalan or Ragozin or whatever system it might be. You're looking for little ideas. So I feel completely fine with it. I would say also, frankly, that I think I've gotten what I wanted out of the first two games. I slowly outplayed Mishra. I mean, maybe I had that one moment against Dominguez where I could have been better at least. But getting an advantage, even if it's 0.3 or 0.4, is really all that you can ask for. You can't really expect to win games out of the opening anymore. That's just not how modern day chess is. So I'm not really that unhappy with the opening. And also I would say, the fact of the matter is, people can laugh at me all they want about it, but I do have a job as a streamer. Like, streaming is how I earn my income, how I earn my living. So I also can't be studying chess 10 hours a day like some other players. And by the way, I'm not referring to Fabiano when I say that, but I don't have the same time, so I try to pick my opening systems, try to make them work, and I think it's completely fine.
So far in this tournament, you've gotten big advantages with black in both your black games. Is that a complete accident, or is there some deeper meaning behind it?
I mean, I think the deeper meaning behind it is that in everybody's mind, you still think that you're supposed to get an advantage with white. It's like I made this reference to the good old book, and how like there's certain themes and certain things that like you grow up being taught, like in a game of chess, the fundamentals. Like if you have one weakness, you can always defend it. If you have two weaknesses, your opponent probably can beat you with perfect play. And so it's the same thing how like with the white pieces, you're also always supposed to try and win the game. With white, you're supposed to put pressure on your opponent. And I think that a lot of people, it's very hard to get away from that mindset. And it's very easy to sort of overpress and try to be really aggressive, because in your mind you think that having the white piece is an advantage, when I think in modern day chess it pretty much is not an advantage at all. If you get lucky, if you get lucky and your opponent makes mistakes, or you out prepare them, like good things can happen and you generally control the flow of the game. But realistically, like white is not an advantage the way that it was when, say, Garry Kasparov was the world champion, or even Anatoly Karpov before that. When I think having the white piece was a big advantage. But computers are the great equalizer, and I think it's very easy to overpress with the white pieces and think that you have to prove an advantage when it doesn't exist.
Yesterday, oh sorry, Fiona, I just have one more question.
Ask your question. Maybe we would just pull up the Sevilla and Dominguez game while we continue the interviews, so we have something to look at.
Sure, absolutely.
And go ahead, Hammer.
One final question. In your game against Dominguez yesterday, you played this d5 move, which kind of exposed your pawns to being a bit weaker, or potential weaknesses in the position. And against Mishra, in the black game there, you played the Sicilian.
Yes.
Would you say you are more willing to take risks with the black pieces?
I mean, it's I would say it's a little bit easier in a sense. I mean, everything depends on your opponent. Some people, like Arjun, will go crazy and try to win with both colors. Some people will be very solid. I think in general, it's more on the player with black to decide the course of the game. Weird as that sounds, because like if I said this 10 years ago, everyone would be like, every top gen would be like, what are you even talking about? But in general, I feel like it's more on black to decide than white these days. Like normally white has the openings and black has to decide. For example, do you play e5 on move one? Do you play the Sicilian? What do you do?
Oh my god, Sevian just blundered his bishop.
Yeah. And this also getting back to another thing I was saying, like this is the other thing that I was saying, like you see blunders like in people get low on time and nobody seems to have a brain anymore, whether you're young or old. But yeah, I think it's actually more on black to decide, so it's a little bit easier because I think black has more of the decision than white does.
Interesting. I'm still shocked by the blunder here. Now Dominguez gonna take game.
But wait, but where's the win is that you move the queen to a1, right? Because if you move the bishop, there's still a repetition, right? Maybe queen h4 there.
Well, I was thinking you can just move the bishop.
Queen h4, queen f4, queen c1. There's a repetition.
I didn't see the c1 square.
But I mean, but Dominguez has 16 minutes. I mean, you got 16 minutes. You can go get a coffee and come back to the board, and I mean, he'll figure it out.
Hikaru, I also have a couple of questions. You talked, you said a couple of times in recent.
Oh wait, no, Queen a1. There's Queen h4. Wait, no, wait a second. No, wait a second.
Oh, that's also.
Wait, so the win is maybe it's Queen a. No, Queen a7, Queen h4. Wait a second.
So it wasn't actually a piece blunder, I think.
No. You probably have to go like maybe bishop a6, check, queen f4, g3, mate. G3, queen e3. Wait, this is actually tricky. Wait, no, but then queen e3. No, wait a second. This is actually very tricky. Wait a second.
You want me to check the answer, or do you want to try and figure it out?
I want to try and figure it out. Queen a3, queen f1, bishop d3, check, g3, queen e3. Wait, this is tricky, actually. This is tricky. Wait a second, this is not obvious. No, now I'm staring in a little bit. Queen e3, king g2, queen e4. Wait.
Hammer doesn't know the solution, chat. Neither of us. We see the evaluation, but we don't see the lines right now. Unless Hammer, you figured it out.
Oh, if I figured it out before Hikaru, you would know. I would be screaming.
G3, queen e3. No, this is not obvious at all. I actually don't see it right off. I don't see it. This is very weird. It has to be a bishop move, though. It has to be a bishop move because nothing else can work. Can't move your rook. You can't move your king.
There's a very limited amount of bishop moves.
Yeah, queen a1, queen h4 is just a draw. Queen b2, queen h4 is just a draw. It has to be a bishop move. G3, queen e3.
I feel like it has to be a queen move, but I'm basing that on nothing at all.
It's not a queen move. It has to be a bishop move. But what can it be?
We already looked at two of the bishop moves, right?
Check. Queen e3. There's always queen e3 though. No, I'm actually confused. I don't see it.
Shall we check the solution?
Sure.
Okay, let's do it.
It is a bishop move.
Yeah, but queen h4? Queen f4? Queen e3? Yeah, this is what I saw. Why is this winning? Oh, bishop f7. Bishop f7, that's why.
Oh wow. Rook
and
D.
bishop d5 g2. Oh wow. Ooh. But see, if Dominguez didn't have 15 minutes, I think this would be a draw for sure, but he still has a lot of time to think.
But so Sam probably didn't blunder the bishop. He probably wanted.
Yeah, he probably thought this was bishop f7. That's very nice. That's very nice. I think I'm not sure that Dominguez is going to find it, by the way. I'm not sure at all that he's going to find it.
Neither.
Oof.
Because in order to find it, you need to be kind of convinced that there is something, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's very easy in this position to just be like, oh, that's not working, that's not working, that's not working.
Mm-hmm.
That's
nice.
Like we couldn't find it here while knowing that there was a win. At the board, there is nobody who tells you, hey, you have a winning. He will, of course, look for something, but he doesn't have that confirmation.
Yeah. That's rough. That's rough. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's probably still winning, but we'll see if he finds it. So anyway, back to what we were talking about.
Yeah, so I was talking about in interviews you had said, there's no way I'm going to be playing 40 games this year. And then earlier today, I came randomly across a tweet that was saying that actually if you do play Grand Swiss, which I know you haven't decided yet, that you might actually be quite close already because you have at least 6 games here, potentially 8. You have 10.
Yeah, I mean, I said before, I don't intend to play the Grand Swiss. It's a world away, and it's just not in my interest.
Okay.
I was going to talk about something separately though, which is like, a lot of people. There have been a lot of people who've come into chess in the last couple of years who really don't. I mean, I don't mean to be really negative, but who do not understand what chess is about. And as it relates to candidates very specifically, the fact of the matter is the tournament is a lottery in the sense that a lot of it comes down to 1 or 2 very critical games and who is in form and who isn't in form, as opposed to who the best player is. And for example, a lot of people, I saw someone mention this stupid thread to me. A lot of people act like I'm super salty or whatever because I never won the candidates. The fact is, you have players who are better than me, like Levon Aronian, who is number 2 in the world for probably at least a very solid 5 or 6 years at some point, who never won the candidates. You have Fabiano, probably clearly the second strongest player after Magnus in this generation. He only won it once out of 6 times having played. And there are many other players who have failed to win it as well. So, when I talk about the tournament being a lottery, it comes down to factors that are outside your control ultimately, and that doesn't mean that you can't win. Of course, there are freaks of nature like Nepo or Anand. But even Magnus, when he won in 2013, I believe, he was very fortunate because he won a game towards the end of the tournament against Radjabov that he never should have won. And then there was that crazy final round where both he and Kramnik, I think, lost to Ivanchuk and Savitla respectively. So basically, the fact is that if you get to that tournament, it's very much a situation where you have no control over your destiny. A lot of it is going to come down to 1 or 2 games somewhere that can make or break the event. And then separately, as it relates to...
can I just
Sure.
I want to interject with one thing in support of you and one thing against you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to get to freestyle, which is the second component in a second.
Yeah, the one thing against you is that I disagree that you don't control your own destiny, because you can just win all the games.
I guess from that, from that standpoint you can, but I'll give you an example, and a lot of credit goes to Gukesh for the game against Ali Reza, but that is a game that I think in almost any other tournament that was round 11 or something, I don't think Gukesh wins that game. I don't think he wins that game if it's not in the candidates tournament. Ali Reza, I think, was equal or better for a large portion, but then Gukesh, his perseverance, just keeping the game going. Eventually, Ali Reza, who was having a bad tournament, collapsed and lost the game. So you're right that you can just win every game. Nepo did that in 2022. He just won every game and blew everybody away. And I mean, hats off to him, because that was just a tremendous performance. But I feel like usually that's not how it goes. Most of the time, it does not work out like that.
Yeah, because what your point is
I mean, Vishy did it too, by the way. Vishy did it too. When Vishy won it the second time, I think he just dominated the event from start to finish, if I remember correctly. So it does happen when someone just dominates, but it's not the norm. It's definitely not the norm.
I guess Topalov also in St. Louis, but yeah, because my point was going to be what you're talking about is when the top players make draws against one another, like happened now. Oh, he found it.
Well, that's what happens when you build the time edge. You give yourself 15 minutes, and very nice from Dominguez. Very, very nice.
But yeah, I was saying that it very much is decided by your results against the guys who's doing poorly in the tournament rather than the results head to head. Do you think there's a different format that could be used if it was a single round robin and then some kind of to get more games between the top players of the tournament to get some decisive games among those in the lead, rather than it being about who manages to beat the lesser players?
I mean, I don't really have a problem with the format, honestly. Like, I don't have a big problem with it. I just think that ultimately it comes down to strange games, strange results, things happening that you don't control. But I also would argue it's hard to find a format that's better in a sense, because everybody plays everybody twice. Like, it's I think more what it is that the big difference is in the candidates. It's a winner take all, and that is because, for example, just to use Norway buff 7. By the way, great move. Just to use Norway as an example, is in the middle or the bottom half of the floor. You care about the money, you care about the rating, but in the candidates, because it's a winner take all, it's a winner take all. If you're not first or last, really every other tournament that changed dynamics completely.
So if the prices were higher. For the number one in the candidates tournament, do you think that?
Sorry, say that again. What are you saying?
If the pair to 8 points, a bigger gap. Do you think that?
Maybe, but I don't think so. And the reason it's happening is because at the end of the day, you're basically guaranteed $1 million. Then 8th is so insignificant. I don't know if we're dropping frames or not. I'm not sure. Because of freestyle chess, where there are 5 or 6 events this year, that takes up a chess. I tend to agree with him, which is that, again, getting back to risk reward and financials, the fact is, if you play the freestyle events and I'm perceiving that I should finish in the middle of the field every time, that's going to basically, let's just say 4 tournaments times 50 grand or whatever, that's $200,000. Now, people probably are aware of this, but if you win the Canada's tournament, the first prize is only $90,000. So if you win that, you are going to play the World Championship. But already anybody can win the Canada's. Everybody's very strong in that tournament. And if you finish any other event, or not any other event, any other spot in the field, you're probably going to be making like 50% less or more than that relative to if you play in all the freestyle events. I guess the stream is back. So, Fabiano was saying that it's basically like 500K equity, and I don't know if I agree that it's $500,000. But if I presume that in those events I should finish in the middle of the field or better, that's basically like, let's just say there are 4 more events. That's $200,000. Winner of the candidates gets $90,000 or around there, I think. So if you look at the way that I do, where I think it is a lottery and anybody can win the tournament, and it comes down to random things, like it doesn't make sense to decide to forego those events. Where I think I have a pretty decent chance of finishing in the top half, to go and play 40 games in tournaments and make financial sacrifices.
Are the older players on the circuit a bit jaded and now care more about money compared to the young guys who may want to make their legacy with titles instead?
No, but even that's complete nonsense too, because the fact of the matter is, the fact is people will try to qualify. But nobody's going to go out of their way to financially harm themselves and not play other tournaments in order to try and qualify. No one's going to try to go out of their way to skip stuff. So in my opinion, that's kind of the point, is that it just doesn't make sense. Like even Ali Reza, for example, like he's also, I think, said effectively the same thing, which is that once you play the candidates, like you realize just a lot of it comes down to these random factors, and when that's the case, like you're not going to go out of your way to try and hope that you can win the candidates. You'll play the tournaments, maybe you'll make it, maybe you won't, but you're not going to skip an event like freestyle where there's huge money at stake. And also, I'm going to be honest again, the situation has improved. There's a lot more money in chess now than there was even a few years ago. In no small part, obviously, to a lot of what I've done and Levy has done as well. But the fact is, top chess players are still struggling. They're still, finances are definitely at the top of their mind and on, and as an agenda sort of thing. So People are not going to go out of their way to change things.
If we look at this game for 1 second, are they just repeating?
Mm-hmm.
Or was there... Hammer, can you go back a couple of moves? Did they repeat?
It seems like they're repeating, and also Dominguez managed to get the queen trade, so that game is
Just so good. So
good.
good. So good from Lenier. So good after yesterday to see this. I mean, just so good. Like, it's like what's the saying? Form is temporary, class is permanent. I mean, so many people I've seen, they like to, say all these stupid things about Dominguez or Wesley. Like, these guys, they just draw every game, blah, blah, blah. I mean, they're still showing such great form. And these guys are really, really good players. Like, it's not by accident they've gotten to like 2750. So, yeah. Also, I want to give you guys another example back to the Kansas thing very briefly. Look at Vinny K. From Germany. You have Vincent Keimer, who won the event in Weisenhaus. And I'm going to tell you this. He got $200,000 for winning that tournament. If he doesn't even sniff the candidates tournament, he's still going to feel like he had a really successful year in spite of that because he won the freestyle event in Germany. So that's kind of the thing, is that people will play the tournaments, and if they make it, they make it, but no one's going to be like, "Oh my god, I have to skip this, this, and this to try and qualify for the candidates at all costs." Yeah, it's what it is, but it's kind of shocking to see people who don't really understand what the realities are.
Do you think that prize,
Hammer, let's just pull up an ongoing game, either Alice or Irina Crush maybe at the end of that Blitz game, if you...
Sure. Yeah, we can pull up a game.
It's at the top. It's at the very top, I think. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, another El Clasico, the El Clasico of American women's chess.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Hammer, you were saying?
I don't recall.
But I mean, Fabiano, of course, is in the dream situation. Like, he's in like the dream situation where he can skip everything and just play freestyle and just do what he wants. So I mean, Fabiano's, I mean, he's got, the world the world is his oyster, or whatever the saying. I forget what the saying is. But yeah, in general, like, a lot of people, they really take things out of context and they misunderstand what's being said. But the fact is, chess players, they are simply trying to make a living. And you can talk about legacy or talk about this, that, or the other thing. But the fact is, you got to eat. You got to make a living. And in chess, nothing is guaranteed. You look at Richard Rapport, for example. He was 2760 in 2022 or something. Top 10 in the world. You figure he's got a long career ahead of him. Going to get all the invites. We're now, 3 years later, and he's like barely 2700. No invites, no income. I mean, people don't want to live in reality. But the reality is that chess is a very tough way to make a living. And it's very difficult, and nothing is guaranteed. So of course people are going to care much more about money than anything else.
Yeah, now I remember what I was going to say. Do you think Vincent Keimer winning this first freestyle tournament of the year, do you think he made more money on that tournament than every prize he's ever won before that?
That's a very good question.
He's quite a young guy.
You're probably, by prizes, yes. By sponsorship, he probably, it probably totals more than that. But yes, but if you were to ask me, I guess a better question is this. If we look at Vincent Keimer in the next 5 years, assuming he doesn't make the world championship, will there be another tournament where he makes that kind of prize money outside of freestyle? And I would take the under on that. I would bet the odds of him actually making $200,000 as a prize in any other tournament, he will not do it in the next 5 years. He just won't do it. So yeah, I'm obviously very happy for him. Like, it's tremendous to see him succeeding and having that result. And I just think, people really like to pretend that the realities are different than they are. That, you want to talk about all these things, but the fact is, you have to be smart about your decisions. And as someone who's played chess for so many years now and seen so many promising people make it, so many people not make it, like, it's just, everybody who's not in that situation wants to believe that the world isn't the way that it is.
Freestyle is actually your next tournament in Paris. Are you looking forward to that one?
I'm sort of looking forward to it, but more than that, I'm actually looking at going on vacation after that. I'll be going to Japan after the Paris event, so maybe I can go do a live stream like Mizkif or Connor or some of those guys, perhaps, who knows. But I'm actually already at this point, my mind's on Japan, not on chess. So really looking forward to that.
Meanwhile, it looks like
Oh,
Irina
by the way,
crushed.
one thing while the game's ending, I want to add because I saw a question in chat. Someone said that Fabio and I were smiling. We were smiling because at the end of the game, we can't make draws by or you can't make offer a draw. And I thought at first it was repetition, but because I took the pawn on a6, it wasn't actually a threefold. So that's why we were smiling, because at first I was going to claim it, and then I realized the queen was on a6 versus a7, and we both kind of realized that at the same time. But anyway, back to chess. Irina won, right?
Yeah, there's like Irina won the Classico, and we're left with only one game ongoing at the moment. That's Alice Lee against Tatev. And maybe you can quickly share some thoughts about that position, and then, unless there's anything you'd like to discuss, then we will let you go.
I mean, very typical King's Indian. Obviously, White's winning if White is Stockfish. Practically, I mean, this game is a long way to go. I think this should be very interesting because Tatev has a big time advantage here. And her moves are easier. She's obviously going to just start pushing the P with G5, F5 at some point on the King's side, whereas White has to go knight E1, knight D3, B4, F3. So the middle game is going to get very complex, and I think it's going to be a good example where we'll see whether Alice Lee is able to sort of show great technique under pressure on the clock. I think it's going to be very, very, very spicy. I don't think this game is going to be a draw. I think this game will be...
What?
Oh, that's a beauty. Wow, I didn't even see that. Oh. The kids and their stupid tactics. Knight G5, that is a beautiful move. Although, what's the idea? If Black was Knight C7
I mean,
here?
I assume you go Knight E6 and sacrifice the pawn.
But what if Black plays Knight C7 just to stop the whole idea? Like Knight C7 here?
E4 maybe?
You're gonna open up the B file and then go back to F3 at some point. Like B6, yeah. Takes BC5.
I mean, you're gaining a lot of tempos compared to the normal situation in this opening.
Yeah. I mean,
I was just about to say I really like Black in these kind of positions because I feel like it's so difficult for White to break through this pawn and knight barrier on the queen side, and then Black can try to build up on the opposite flank. But Knight G5 is wow.
That's a nice move. Yeah, nice move. Also, I want to point out something else because someone mentioned something in chat. Just back to main point. Someone said or saying something about I don't think freestyle is going to be big. What changed my mind? Like there's nothing that's changed in my mind about freestyle. I mean, I think it's interesting. I think it has potential. But the fact is, it's a tournament that's there. Like if there's a tournament that's there with the big prizes, I'd have to be a moron to not plan the event. That doesn't necessarily mean that I think it's going to be some huge success 5 years down the road. But I'm going to play the event that exists. Like it's not about like changing my mind. It's the fact that if there are tournaments there where you have a $200,000 prize fund, I'd have to be an idiot not to play. For anyone who's wondering, because I think I saw that in chat just a second ago. But people apparently these days have no ability to use their brains and think logically about anything. So yeah, it's just bizarre. So back to chess, yes.
I'm all out of questions. Hammer, I don't know if you have anything else.
I feel like I had my quota and then some.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not sure if I'm going to do a recap today. I mean, I might just do one big recap tomorrow. I know when Levy's played tournaments and he's had some kind of like very boring short draw, he usually just jams it together and does a recap of 2 games. So I'm not actually sure if I'm going to do a recap today. Not 100% sure, but it is a short game, and I mean, I had 2 choices. Either I basically I either decide to hang with you guys, or I go try to do some trading around the Federal Reserve stuff. So I thought I would hang with you. So I don't mind hanging around for another 5 or 10 minutes with you guys.
So let's look at this some more. Apart from Knight C7, what can Tatev do here?
Well, she can allow the pawn sacrifice to go through, right? It's not entirely obvious that this pawn sack is so incredible. Is it? Maybe it is.
I mean, it is for a computer. Is it for a human? I mean, probably it is if Alice understands the concept of playing for F4. If she understands the concept of the quick attack with F4 to open up the file, it's probably very good for White. But, I mean, even this is going to require very, very precise play. And I'm not sure that in human practice this is so clear. In a computer game, of course, White's just rolling, but it'll be interesting.
If you're black here, is your first instinct to play this position as black or avoid it?
I mean, I guess here's what I would say. If this were a classical game, I would be unhappy to have this position as black. If this were Rapid or Blitz, I think I'd love to have this position. That's what I would say.
Do you have any thoughts on the young crop of women players in the US? Alice Lee, Cara Sayed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's really great that Dr. Jeannie Sinkfield came up with this $100,000 prize. I think for the first 5 American women who become the overall Grandmaster title. I think that definitely is going to spur on some of these kids to try and make a run at it. I mean, obviously, Carissa is by far and away the best of the U.S. women players at the moment. Irina was for a long time. So I think Carissa is definitely, in my opinion, the best by a big margin at the moment. I think that when I look at Alice, very, very talented, but it feels like she's lost a step in the last year or so. It felt like, I mean, I get all my years blended together, but I feel like 1 or 2 years ago, she was, I think she lost to Magnus. She might have even drawn me. I mean, she had some really, really good games against top players, and it feels like in the last year or two, she's kind of regressed a little bit, and I haven't really seen that same spark in her games. But she's the other one who, of course, has the best shot at getting to Grandmaster. Both of them have really high potential, but I think Carissa at the moment is probably the stronger player. Although, as I said, I feel like her openings here haven't been great. I don't know, maybe A Wonder hasn't been giving her the great prep the way he was during the US Women's Championship. But it just feels like I would say overall Carissa's best. Alice has a chance, and it's good when I look at someone like Carissa. That she is, I think, taking the last year off school or doing something like that to try and play chess professionally, because chess there's a very finite window for your career, and this is, again, not to hash the candidate's point again, but you really never know how long your chess career is going to be. It's very volatile, it's very unstable. You can have one bad year, career can be over. So when you're young, you have to take these chances. And I think for Carissa, if it doesn't work out, she can always go and finish her studies, in a couple of years. But she has the opportunity, the chance to become a grandmaster and maybe climb in the world rankings, perhaps. And I think that it's definitely a good thing. I would hope that Alice pursues the same course, but we'll have to wait and see. She is a little bit younger.
How do you see the future of chess in the US in general? What about young male talents? How do you see the coming years?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very, very murky. I mean, we don't need more nonsense, so I won't talk about certain player. But I think the fact is, at the moment, it's very difficult because as far as U.S. chess goes, it's really, I mean, it basically for all of us, everything has been held up by what Rex has done. Rex and Jeannie, the amount of money they've given to chess in America. I mean, they've probably given more money to chess in America than probably in the entire history of the game, frankly. So without what they've done, none of this would be possible. I've been very fortunate. I've played in St. Louis on and off since 2009 when they first held the U.S. Championship. So it's amazing to see what they've done. On the other hand, Rex is not getting any younger. Who knows what the future is going to look like in 5-10 years from now? But I'm hopeful that there will continue to be financial resources towards the club and towards the events that they're hosting. I think when I look now, regardless of Hans and all his nonsense, the fact is the U.S. is very far behind. Several countries in particular, I would say India, obviously, and India and Uzbekistan very specifically. They have some very, very strong talents. You look at countries like Iran or Turkey, where you also have a couple of kids who are really, really strong and are frankly very annoying for me to play against. Whenever I play the Turkish kids in the bullet brawl, there's half my age and they're beating me. It's very frustrating, but that's how it goes. And so I think you have a lot of you have a lot of talented kids from these countries, and they're far ahead of the U.S. I think I don't really know if there's anything that can be done about it other than perhaps having some kind of system where there is more money for the rising players. I think you might still have things like the Sanford Fellowship, but I think that's pretty much it as it goes for money for these players. So it's very tough. I think unless there's some kind of systemic change, the U.S. is going to probably lag far behind. And no, just for anybody who asks a question, Hans is not like the next greatest thing. So Yeah, I
So,
mean, I'm not optimistic. I think, I think if you ask me, I think what's going, I mean, this is another hot take, but I think what's going on with, like, say, the club, I think Carissa is moving to St. Louis, if I'm not mistaken. Seeing them trying to help the women's chess, I think is actually a much better idea, in my opinion. I think there's much more potential there at the moment for the U.S. to have players like Carissa or Alice who can potentially become world champions than Mr. Loudmouth. Although I do think, players like Mishra as well, like, he's not getting the he does not have the opportunities. He's a very, very strong player, and he doesn't have opportunities either. So it's not some Han specific thing. Like, the juniors, it's very tough as an American junior to have a shot. And of course, partially that's the fault of, like, Fabiano, myself, Lenier, and Wesley just being so good. But I think that, the juniors, unless something changes, it's very hard for me to see a world where, at least on the male side, it's going to change much. I mean, there are other countries that are just much better than us.
I find surprising that you would say that, because like you said, Mishra, he was the youngest to get the Grandmaster title ever in all of the world. Mm-hmm. And you have this very talented, what's his name? Woodward?
Oh, Andy Woodward? Yeah, but I mean, but these guys have the same, but, again,
they are at the level of the Turkish kids, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I'll talk about,
kids.
For like the 50th time today, I'll talk about the elephant in the room. The fact of the matter is that all these players in these other countries, they have financial support. And also, I would say you have to remember that when you compare the United States of America to a lot of other countries, the cost of living, the standard of living, it's very, very different. I think if you look at India, for example, if you go travel abroad to some tournament in Spain and you win a tournament, you make $2,000. That is fantastic, because the cost of living and the prices of everything are much lower in India than they are in the U.S. If you go from the U.S. to Spain, and I did this many times as a kid, like, you have an airfare for, like, your mom or dad, you have airfare for yourself. I mean, I know the parents are paying, but that's 2 airfares. Then usually the hotel maybe will be covered, but 2 airfares and food, you're probably already looking at $2,000 right there. And that eats it up, even if you have a great result. So the financial constraints are a real thing, whether that's Andy Woodward, whether that's Abhimanyu Mishra. The financial end of it is very, very rough, and parents are basically forced in a situation where they have to basically spend their own money to send their kids or go with them to try and compete. And it's very, very tough. It's very, very tough. And I think unless there are private sponsors, like, it's only going to get worse.
Are you saying the Indians don't have this problem? Because a lot of the Indians are traveling to Europe as well.
But I mean, the cost of everything is lower. So if you have a good, like you're not going to, like, I'm just going to say this, like, if you're traveling to Europe, let's just say you travel, I'm just going to say 8 times a year. Okay. Like, maybe this is too high, but let's just use like 8 times a year. And let's just say you're a kid and you go with your parent, you're easily spending something like, let's just say $2,000 to $3,000. Let's just say $3,000 between airfare, food, and everything, all the expenses, times 8. That's $24,000. A salary in the US is like, I don't know what the average salary is, but I feel like if you have a good job, not a liberal, coastal job, you probably make like $75,000, $80,000 a year. That's probably a good job. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm out of date with my facts, but the fact of the matter is that's a good job. You're going to have, like, if you have one parent who's working full time, like, that's going to be a third already of your money towards traveling. Like, it's very, very, I mean, people don't like it when I talk about these things because everybody wants to pretend that we live in some perfect world and these things don't exist. But, like, that's a third of the salary of one parent. Like, it's not a joke at all. It's not a joke. And from India, I don't know exactly how it works, but I know the money's going to go a lot further.
I don't understand how you can say that so definitively. I definitely agree with you that chess is a very expensive hobby. Because the chess tournaments are so long and you often travel so that you have to have accommodations for the duration of the tournament. But I don't see how the money would be better for the Indian kids when sure, the Indian parents maybe have fewer expenses when at home in India, but the travel costs are the same, and the salaries in India are considerably lower than that of the US. To me, it seems
I thought it was cheaper, but maybe I thought it was cheaper to get to Europe from India, and usually, but okay, I mean, your point is taken. Like, I'm not going to try and argue over that, but at least from what I've heard, I'm under the impression that when players do well, like, it's much more meaningful. But I mean, again, I don't know specifics. Like you could be right on this.
Well,
Probably Indian players just have a lot more support, right? A lot more sponsorship. I think it's very rare to see these young Indian players at tournament and not to see them wear at least a couple of sponsor badges or sponsor logos.
Yeah, I mean, I again, like that's just my view of it. But I mean, I will also, I mean, I can also just speak, you know, again, everybody assumes that I make stuff up and I'm just like, don't know what I'm talking about. But, you know, if I look at the case of Andy Woodward, for example, you know, I was basically paying for lessons. I wasn't directly involved, but I was basically sponsoring him in a sense where I was paying, you know, $2,000 a month so he could get lessons with strong grandmasters. And, you know, if you look at that over the course of a year, like that's not a joke. That right there, just $2,000 a month is like, that's $24,000. Then you add in like travel and all these other things. Like, you know, if you have no support, like it's immensely taxing. It's very difficult as an American to try and make it. And I know they're looking for sponsors now. And I mean, I feel like everybody's looking for sponsors, Mishra as well. Like, it's just the unfortunate reality is it's a very tough landscape. It's a very, very tough landscape in the US.
Well, I think it's true for most countries. I don't think the US is that much different to Norway, also one of the richest country in the world. But in Norway, we do not have the generosity, like you've said, of Rex and Jeannie Sinkfield. And the same problems you're describing, I think, is the same problem that a lot of people are experiencing, because back to that part of the story, chess is a very expensive hobby. The advantage of France, Germany, Norway, Spain is that people there, they play tournaments within their own country, which to some degree, I'm not saying hotels in Norway is cheap, but you can choose to play weekend tournaments and stuff like that if money is a massive issue. So I guess what I'm trying to get to is, wouldn't a lot of the problems here be better addressed rather than talking about the lack of money? Shouldn't the discussion rather be about how do we make chess less expensive? Because right now, the lack of money, I think, is just the symptom of a larger issue, which is that chess is too expensive. It shouldn't be this expensive. There shouldn't be a situation where you have to travel to Europe to find good tournaments when you're from India or whether you're from the US. And I would like to, because I've played a couple of tournaments in the US, and the truth of it is that the US tournaments have a very different
capitalism, baby. Capitalism. No, I mean, but actually I was thinking about that too, but that's also the other reason people, I mean, like in the US, I think it might be more expensive well, it's probably not more expensive because you don't have the airfare, but like you're paying your own hotel, actually. I assume you know this. Like if you're an aspiring junior player, you're paying your own hotel, and then all the food is out of pocket too. So like you have like 5 or 6 nights of hotel, which also adds it very quickly. I think, you know, there's also the other unpleasant reality, I think, about the whole conversation, which is that the fact of the matter is we're I know you guys aren't, but like we're America, and I think there's also this American privilege, or like, you know, it's America. We're supposed to be the greatest country in the world. Everything's supposed to be great. How can it be that there's not money for chess? And so it is possible that you're right from that standpoint. It's also partially like an American thing. That it's like, this is America. We're the best. Like, it's just not okay. But still, I mean, I think, you know, the fact is, you're right though. In Europe, and someone said it's like you can get a flight on Ryanair or any of the cheap airlines for like 50 euros to go and play somewhere for a week, and it's a lot cheaper. So yeah, I don't know if there's a solution necessarily, but I think that it's something that you know, with the US, definitely, I think the parents, unless you happen to be from a very rich family, the parents feel the squeeze. They feel the squeeze a lot in terms of having to spend a lot of money for their kids to go and travel and do other things. And yeah, chess is just very expensive no matter how you slice it. And I don't know if there's a way to make it cheaper. I don't know.
I will say this, that both Magnus and I, and also the youngster we have coming up in Norway, who is Axel Bukvale. We are all from well-off families, and there is a concern that those people are the only ones to kind of excel because they have the means to travel the tournaments more so than someone like someone from, I'm going to use Norway since that's what I know, Elham.
Yes,
Ahmad.
of course.
He is incredibly talented, but he doesn't come from means in that same way, and so then it becomes tricky to maximize his talent,
right?
Compared to someone who can just finance the journey of chess excellence themselves.
No, I mean you're absolutely right. Yeah. Life is unfair. Yeah, I mean it's you're right that it's a problem everywhere. Certainly, I mean I think part of it might just be that again, in America, like we're supposed to be the best. It's just so unconscionable that something can be wrong because it's America. So you might be right actually about part of it, but I do think ultimately, it's as far as the U.S. goes though, I think. With a lot of parents and the kids who are playing, like they feel the pressure. They feel a lot of pressure. And it's very tough to try and make a career out of chess. It really is. And so that's also why, like in general, I'm not optimistic about the future, at least on the men's side. I think that's also the other thing I'd say on the women's side. The investment I think can be a lot less with much higher return than it's going to be on the men's side. So that's why I actually like as far as St. Louis, because I think what they're doing is great with like Carissa and maybe Alice down the road. Who knows? I think that there's much more potential there than on the men's side, which maybe it's disappointing to hear that, but that's my view.
I've also been following. There's this girl who posts these updates on Twitter, and she's having some really good results as well.
You're talking about Rose, right?
Rose, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I basically think there's more potential there on the girls' side than the men's side at the moment. I'm not saying that it's going to be like that forever, but I think at the moment when I look at the current crop, I feel like there's more potential. Is
there less competition also on the girls' side?
Well, I mean, I guess you could say that yes, on the girls' side there aren't. I mean, you don't have players who are like rock solid top 10 players. I mean, that's the thing. You look at us. Like, I mean. Myself, Wesley, Fabiano, like, I mean, all of us have been perennial top 10 players for the last decade or so. And it is true that currently we don't have that on the women's side. Irina was, I mean, at some point, I think she's over 2,500, but never super close to like the world championship level.
Well, I mean, more internationally.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you're right. I mean, that's going to lead to a different topic and a can of worms. But I think, at the end of the day, there's more potential there. And for the people who want to be apologists for certain someone, the fact is, you look at India, you have kids who are 3-4 years younger than Hans, who are already world champion level, 50 plus points higher rated. So I'm sorry, but the reality is that he's not at that level. So anyway.
Do you guys have anything you want to add on this conversation?
I think I'm gonna bounce in a second. I've been here for a long time, and just seeing some of the comments, like whatever.
Quickly gonna bring up just one last thing to bring us back to the tournament before we let you go. St. Louis published a graphic chances to win the tournament in the open section, which we're gonna pull up on the screen. So it has Caruana at 29.2%, you at 24.8%, then Wesley 14, Aronian 14, Dominguez 9, and so on and so forth.
This is before the event, right?
I think.
Or currently.
Oh, it's actually pre-tournament.
Yeah, I mean that has to be pre-tournament because I mean it should be something like Fabi's like 40%, I'm like 38% or something. I mean like real because actually the fact is whoever is there is gonna have to beat both of us. Because if I beat Fabiano, I'm at the top, and then Fabi drops, and if Fabi beats me, then I have to play the person. So like, I mean. But so you're asking before the event, Fabiano at 29 and me at 24.
Yeah,
that is peculiar. That seems wrong. That seems wrong, actually. I don't know how you can have those odds when I'm higher rated.
I just saw the percentages and didn't see the pre-tournament part, and I thought it was after today's game. I didn't realize everyone was still in the pie.
No. I mean that's a little bit surprising on the one hand. But I mean, like it's just surprising that I mean, who knows when they did this, but that seems a little bit dubious to me. Also,
Hikaru-
it seems very dubious because how is Wesley at third? Levon won this event last year. How is Wesley higher than? I mean, Levon should be third based off of last year alone.
It also
That's
it
also kind
says
of weird.
the source is 15,000 tournament simulations, which I wonder how they did that. But anyway, Hikaru, thank you so much for all your time. I feel we had some very interesting insights and discussions. And best of luck for the second game tomorrow.
Thank you, guys. Man. Yeah, I may or may not do a recap. I don't know, but I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys soon. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.